I'm Jackie Flavin, Customer Insights Leader with Demco, and this is Open Book, our weekly conversation series with industry experts about how they're navigating COVID-19 challenges. And today I'm joined by Kimberly Young. Kimberly is the director of Monarch Library System, which is a library system of about 32 member libraries around the Milwaukee area. She has worked in libraries in Michigan, South Carolina, Colorado, Wisconsin, and has just a wonderful set of experiences to share with us. She has a really refreshing perspective on library leadership, and we're so excited to hear about your experience leading a big library system throughout this past year, especially.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm so happy to be talking with you today.
Thank you. Maybe just to get us started here, can you tell us a little bit about the Monarch Library System?
Yes. So the Monarch Library System, just north of Milwaukee, spans 4 counties in the state of Wisconsin. It includes Sheboygan County, Ozaukee County, Washington County, and Dodge County, and mainly public libraries within those counties. So there are 30 public libraries in our system, and we have 1 university library at Lakeland University in Sheboygan that is also part of our system. So as Monarch, we kind of do that oversight of the sharing for all of those systems, for all of those libraries. So in the state of Wisconsin, a system will assist with, we do things like the ILS operation, and we have an ILS manager that provides that service for all of the member libraries. We do some technology stuff for them with their networking inside of their libraries, and then also their staff networking and their public side. Running their Wi-Fi access and some other services such as that. We also do then resource sharing, so cooperative buying of some of those public end resources that libraries are providing.
Cool.
And so those 4 counties, one of the really neat things about Monarch is it's a relatively new system. So they were 2 library systems, and just 4 years ago now, they joined into 1. And so it is a rather large system with 31 member libraries.
Wow.
And I came to Monarch in July of 2020. So in the midst of COVID, I had been traveling. I know I told you this story, Jackie. I'd been traveling around the world for a bit, seeing all the things that I made to make sure I never wanted to miss out on in life. And COVID brought that to a halt. And just kind of started that job search right after COVID happened. And in July, late July, I landed here in Wisconsin, which is a lovely place to be, especially in July, by the way. So I am enjoying Sheboygan, living right on the river. One of my favorite things is to be in my kayak, so I can just throw it right out the front door and jump in.
That's so awesome. And I love, you have such an interesting mix. You've been in so many different libraries, and now especially working with the whole system, you see so many different libraries. And so I feel like you're in a perfect position to like sort of share like trends that you're seeing or themes, that emerge. And so I'm really excited that we can get into some of that today. And you just have a lot of great things to share with other libraries.
Thank you.
So how has the pandemic impacted the Monarch Library System?
Well, as I mentioned, I wasn't there at the beginning, and I know just navigating the world at that time, that had to be such a hard thing to shutter all of our buildings, of course, to begin with, right? So from that, I think the shift in services that I've seen from our member libraries and from libraries all around the country, really. But the shift in services has been an amazing thing. The expansion of Wi-Fi, the virtual programming and the take and makes, and then also just adapting to those virtual collections, emphasizing those to our public. Those types of things have just been amazing to see happen. The library world is an adaptable world. Sometimes we might not remember that, but I'm seeing it happen. We all are, and it's amazing.
Yeah, truly on the front lines too. I mean, people need information more than ever in a pandemic. And I know one of my first thoughts when my local library closed was like, how am I going to get books? Like it was like a panicky, And, so I hope that, I know we're kind of preaching to each other's choir here, but I'm hoping that libraries are being recognized by their communities for all the hard work that they've been doing throughout this time.
Oh, me too. And one of the things I saw was a article from Wisconsin Public Radio on the efforts in Marathon County most recently. And I thought that's the perfect example of good news I want to see. I know we have talked about good news, and libraries can be the good news of the world right now. And it would be great if we got that word out there and made libraries the good news. I think it'd be an awesome effort. I'm not really sure where to start with it, but but every library out there that's listening, please call your local newspaper and let them know everything you're doing to help people cope and manage and have access to things that they need, because it can't hurt to ask.
Yeah. In your experience, like, I love that you're not afraid to just ask for things and like make things happen. And that's like sometimes all it takes, right? I mean,
yeah, completely.
Like, yeah. And you found the papers to be pretty supportive.
Yes. I was just, I think we talked before, I was telling you about just asking is one of my things. Like, I won't know if I don't ask. I'm always willing to ask for, more information. I'm willing to ask for a better price on pretty much anything that I'm buying for the library system. And I think that that's an important thing right now as we're facing those budget shortfalls that some people might be experiencing in 2021 or in 2022 even. Remember to ask your vendors to give me last year's price again, just till I can see how my funding comes through. Make the ask. Yeah. Some of them can say yes, maybe some of them can't, but it can't hurt to ask and to put yourself out there for your library, for your staff, and for your community.
Totally. Yeah. And there could always be a creative solution out there too with vendors. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like all the time there's like things that we can do that like might not be obvious, but we can figure it out. And if you start the conversation, we'll see what we can figure out.
Exactly. We've seen that some of the things like movie licensing gave like a 3-month extension to everyone if you repurchased or something. So there are you're right, there's some other creative solutions that vendors are offering already. So using those models too, when you're approaching someone else is helpful.
I love that.
Definitely.
So what were some of like the big lessons that you learned this past year, like leading a huge library system through this time? What were some of the like big takeaways for you?
Man, getting back into the swing of things in work mode was my first challenge after traveling. And I love all of the connectivity. We're using the Microsoft 365 package and becoming partly remote work, partly in the office work, and having that connectivity through all of the different applications that are available and how we store our information was awesome to be able to jump right into that and be able to pick up and be wherever I need to be and still have access to everything I need access to. So I think learning that, how all that interconnectivity works and getting myself back into that pattern was at first a bit of a learning curve, but then actually made how I manage almost everything else in my life easier.
Yeah.
And once I got back into a routine, and I mean, we all know how routine is good for you, right? So kind of just been flying by the seat of my pants for a little while. So once I got back into those routines, it's been really wonderful.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I definitely learned as well is that remote work is here to stay. Mm-hmm. And being that we provide services for our member libraries and aren't working really at those customer service points within our libraries, we're able to open that flexibility up to a number of our staff members throughout the pandemic. Some were already working remote prior to the pandemic. Some switched during the pandemic, and then we've already made arrangements for some people to continue on after. And even we're looking at reducing that footprint of our facility and some of those overhead costs to better spend those dollars on our member libraries moving forward, because we learned that remote work is here and it's functioning and we're still getting things done. So we're embracing that and taking even the next steps in it coming out of COVID, whenever we do. But because I think one of the things when I took this job that I was really looking forward to is the opportunity to be that worker in my public libraries. I wanted to go sit in the West Bend Library that afternoon and do my work there, or sit in the Saukville Library, or venture out to somewhere out in Washington County and spend some time. And being that model of what libraries say, with we're open to remote workers, we're open to all these different venues, and I was looking forward to really being that person. So as I built this more ability in my practices to be able to work remotely, I really look forward to being able to take that show on the road. Yes. And spend my time in my member libraries, seeing how they do things and sharing that with others.
Yeah. I would imagine a lot of people are going to be headed for the library, because a lot of companies are saying, yeah, work from home, we can do that. Yes. We'll be working remotely. So, I mean, I would love to get out of my house as soon as my library is open and it's safe. Like, I will go work from there for a day or two a week. And
exactly.
I would feel the same way. So, I mean, do you see that trend kind of coming soon? Is that on the horizon?
I don't want to make any bets, but I know that it's for me one of the things that I'm looking forward to. More seeing it as there's something I have that I know it will come back, and I know it will restore some of that regularity, but also then remembering to take those things I've learned during this time into and keep them in my practices.
Right. Yeah. Just balancing and rebalancing, and yeah.
Exactly.
I hear you. So now we're just like not even a month into 2021, and I think a lot of us are trying to like forget about the last year or take the best pieces and move forward. So what are you like looking at the year ahead? What are your big focus areas? Like, what are you looking forward to prioritize?
I mentioned earlier that we're a newer system. So just 4 years in, they've got a lot of the work under their belt, so to speak, in building the foundation for how that system's running. And we're moving right into our first strategic planning process as a system. So that we're kicking off in February. And we're having to do that a little bit differently than maybe we had hoped, because we're not going to be able to have those in-person meetings to get that interest and understand the values of each library. So we're developing it through some surveys to our member libraries and other stakeholders, any member library board members, any member library staff members, and then of course our Monarch staff and board members as well. And then collecting that data and being able to go through it in a different way than maybe we would have if we would have been able to have some of those in-person meetings, but moving through still that strategic planning process, so that when we're ready and as we're moving through this time, it is a time that's maybe good for reflection and planning and taking it slow, I think, too.
Yeah.
So we're looking at this strategic planning process coming out on the other side in June, and really having some solid priorities identified. So we built this new system. I can't take credit for that part, but now that they have it built, I'm ready to help steer that ship toward the priorities that they'll identify through this process. So that's really exciting. And I think that the other thing that we're really working on is, as I mentioned, we have adapted some more remote work within our system, and we're making that more accessible. So helping maybe with some of our things that are on servers within our building, bringing those things to the cloud, making them more accessible for everyone in our system, because our member libraries also use that storage. So giving their staff members remote access and our staff members more remote access to those things that we store for them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's really interesting thinking about the size of a library system. Like one not seemingly small change actually is a big change. Like you have to actually change all your infrastructure to like make that happen. It's just interesting thing. I usually think about libraries as like the one library, but the library system is just such a big bigger thing. And I think it's so cool that like you came at really the right moment. Like it's a huge pivot point for the library system, and you came in to lead. And it's kind of nice that there's no like history where you're like, well, this is what it was. There's not a precedent that you're
Yes.
referring back to.
Yes, that is definitely one of the things, because of course, as they were merging, there was some of this, well, we did it this way and we do it this way, but they've come to some common ground on many of those things now, and we're ready to move forward. So it is, like you said, it's an opportune time. And I think it's also beneficial because I don't have a history with either one of those systems to know that any of that background. So I'm just here, new, fresh. Let's all just start with on a positive note and a positive footing and move through that together.
Yeah. I think also one of the amazing things you bring is you have such great experience with so many different things and so many different libraries and like all your travels. And so you see things that might not, like other people might not see if they're used to just sort of looking in the same places. And I feel like without conferences and all that, we're missing out on the opportunity to really like hear from different regions and all that.
I know. Conferences, there's something about the virtual conference that's awesome because you don't have to miss a session. You can, take your time. You can go back and view things later. There's, I love that, but I sure miss connecting with people.
Yeah.
That's where I met our common friend, Matt, is, you reconnect with those people at those conferences, and you build those connections from year to year to understand new things that the other person's doing. And so, yeah, that's the part I really miss.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. But you mentioned also the various places that I've been in my career, and that's true. My husband was in the military for a number of years, and we then had to go to so many different places. So I had the opportunity to, as he was moving from station to station, that I then got to work in a variety of different libraries, some more rural, some more highly funded, some county systems, some small independent systems. And it really did bring a different picture to library land, and to how I fit into it, and to how I see it. And I love being able to draw on all those experiences, because I really appreciate when somebody comes to a new job and they say, at my last library, we did this and it was super efficient. But we also have to remember that it's not always the way that you used to do it that was better. It's that's another way of doing it. Yeah. And evaluating those and constantly changing is what keeps us fresh and engaged and involved in our communities. And sometimes change is hard, but when we all work together and build it together based on priorities and based on our own interest, then it's so beautiful to see it come together.
Yeah, I agree. And I really think that libraries and librarians have done a really good job of changing things and keeping them fresh, but also keeping certain things the same and preserving them. There's certain things that like don't change. And I think that libraries just do a wonderful job of keeping that balance,
Yes.
This information is always important. But
yes.
What format you get your materials in can change.
Yes, we're all about equal access, right?
Yeah.
And making sure everybody can get what they need.
Yeah. And I've been reflecting a lot, I'm sure you have too, about like, what does this all mean for everybody, and especially libraries? And I really think like this is a big Rubicon moment, and we're pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, two different worlds. What do you think libraries should do or can do to like really make the most of this moment? Like, how do they seize the day on this?
So I think I'm going to say back to that point of reflecting, using this time, because there's something slower to the nature of this time, and there's something fast about it. But embracing the slowness, we can't make fast changes. We're still waiting. There's a lot of waiting that's happening right now, right? So taking that time and reflecting and just moving slowly through it, because we're not in a hurry right now, and we don't have to be. We really don't have to be in a hurry in the library world too often, which is one of the reasons I love it so much. And just moving slowly through it, adapting to the changes in your community, because they might look different than someone else's, and playing a positive role in that change is, I think, something that libraries can do and come out of this really showing that they're a community player and a team player.
I love that. And I love your advice. It's the moving slower is, you're so spot on. And it's so counterintuitive to me to like think that way. And I just thank you for that reminder. You're totally right. Like we don't need to rush there. Like the pandemic taught us that we can do less and we can take time and figure it out. And, you know, you might not have all the information right now. So we have to practice patience, and you're totally right.
Well, you know, it's if you can check off more things, more boxes that you did that day, that's an achievement, right? But if we can shift our thinking just a little bit to, did I really put a lot of thought into that? Did I think about it and do it the best way I could, even if it took me twice as long? Sometimes that's how it, you know, even how much time did I really just put into thinking about that first before I acted to?
Yeah.
And it, like that slowing down provides for that. Yeah. And a little bit more reflection and a little bit more contemplation there is space for it.
Yeah.
And so opening up that space for you.
Yeah, I read something that was saying that we just don't do any deep learning anymore. Like we're just taking in headlines and quick bits of information, but not really processing information, which is kind of scary because then it doesn't like stay with us and ruminate in the same kind of way.
Yeah. Well, we aren't then building it into ourselves. So that's what change is about, right? We like it, and what was it's resolution time. It's New Year's resolution time. Isn't that exactly an example? People say, oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to, you know, run every day, or I'm going to, but really it's about that little thing. Like, did I do it today? And then did I do it tomorrow? Yeah. And then, you know, one day at a time. Yeah. And then that's how we build that success in ourselves and in change, is by just taking it a little bit at a time and not thinking I'm going to do this every day. No, I'm just going to do it today, right now.
Yeah.
And if I can do it today, then I can worry about tomorrow.
Yeah, that is really great advice for everybody, and especially peers of yours leading libraries through all this. I wanted to ask, like, I can totally picture you giving a keynote at a conference, and I'm wondering, you know, what would be your main message? And I feel like you've touched on so many great topics. I'm wondering, like, if you had, you know, all the library system leaders in the room with you, like, what would be your key message?
I think it's that slowly.
Yeah.
Go slowly. It's okay. We had a couple new library directors starting in our system right now. And that was I said, I absolutely love your enthusiasm, but you can only be the new kid for just a year. So take some time and be the new kid. And I said, that's what I'm doing. I get to be the new kid right now. And I get to ask those questions that are like, you know, a little bit out there, a little bit off the cuff, or, you know, and figure out really what's happening in the Wisconsin library world, because I'm the new kid in that world right now. And what, you know, who's doing what, and getting, you know, figuring it out, taking my time to figure it out. So I think that going slowly and making time for those things that are part of your work life, but then that word that we keep coming back to in this conversation is balance, and then balancing that. Because if you make time for you in your work life or your personal life or whatever aspect of life you're talking about, then the time that you're with others will be more valuable.
Right.
Like, you know, if you're taking the time to do your work or going through those thought processes we were just talking about, and you're taking the time to do that for yourself, valuing it, it'll show in your work, it'll show in your interactions with others. And then that's also being then like a role model and being influencing those around you with positive attributes.
Yeah.
Because the brownies and the cookie plates that sit in the kitchen at work, those are awesome and my favorite too. But also then building positive habits for each other.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot about like manage your energy, not your time. And I feel like you're a really good example of that. Like really knowing what you need to do versus like what you kind of should do. Like, okay, yeah, it is it is time for the 3 o'clock meeting, but like the energy isn't right for that meeting right now. So what else should we do? I feel like you're probably really good in that sense.
Yes, that's one of my, so my 3 go-tos for my own time to make sure that I keep that balance are yoga, kayaking, and hiking. Those are I have to make sure I'm including those. Not necessarily, yoga is a daily basis for sure. But my kayaking and hiking trips, I have to know which one I'm doing next. Like that gives me that thing like, oh, I've got that to look forward to. I, know what I'm gonna, like some things I'm gonna see. I can start doing some reading on the area, or just having that thing to look forward to that gives you, joy and makes you excited is awesome. On a daily basis with, like I said, my yoga, that's how I do that. And then those bigger things to look forward to. I think they give you a little bit of perspective. And then the same thing with your work life, right? So you have those things like, yeah, I do this on a daily basis. I go through my email, I respond to those things, I file things away where they need to go. Those basics that you do every day to keep your work life healthy. And then also those bigger projects that you're working on, like our strategic plan I mentioned. So then you have your routines that are involved around those other bigger things to keep those routines healthy in your work life, just like you do in your personal life.
Yeah. I love that. What is something that you're leaving behind in 2020, or that libraries should leave behind in 2020? And what's something that you're going to bring to 2021?
Oh, that leads right back to that energy that we were just talking about. That's what it is. It's any of that negative energy, anything that doesn't serve me, anything that doesn't serve your library, just leave it. Don't wrap it up neatly. Don't do anything else. Just leave it and move on. Go forward with positivity and with that energy that builds and creates and does all of those transformational things that we know libraries and librarians are capable of, and it just emit.
Yeah, this is kind of it. Like the pandemic has given us permission to just let go of certain things. Like you don't even need to apologize for it, or like a PowerPoint to explain why. It's just that's going to stay. That's done. Yeah.
Yep. So we've all been given permission. Not that we really needed it, only from ourselves, but we've been given permission globally now. So take advantage of it. It's like in the new kid again, right? Like you get this free pass, let it go. Everybody said you could.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for chatting with me today. And I'm so energized. I feel like it's kind of nearing towards like the end of my workday, but I wish it was the beginning, because now I have like a lot of energy to think, clearly on things. But you are so wonderful, and we're so glad that we get to share your experience with other leaders out there.
Thanks for having me, Jackie. I always enjoy talking to you.
Thank you so much.